This is Theater Talk. I'm Susan Haskins, and tonight we're pleased to have back with us one of the greats of the musical theater. Here to introduce him, my co-host, Michael Riedel of the New York Post.
We had such fun talking to Jerry Herman last week that he has graciously agreed to continue on this week talking about his life and his career in the theater. Jerry, welcome back to Theater Talk.
Nice to
We
be
haven't
back.
moved at all. We didn't even change our clothes from last week to this
No, we
week.
just kept them on.
All right, Jerry, you are about to embark on a brand new musical, collaboration with Tommy Tune, Miss Spectacular. Tell us a little bit about that and what the genesis of it was.
I was commissioned, actually, to write a review for Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, that's something I've never done. That sounds like fun and certainly up my alley. You know, I love. If you tell me that there are going to be 50 girls in a number, and I'll write it because that's what I like to see on a stage. And I wrote a piece that was not really a review. It had production number after production number after production number, but I devised a little storyline to connect them so it wouldn't just be, you know,
Plotless review.
Plotless. Yeah. And also so that it wouldn't bore Las Vegas audiences with long book scenes, because they really don't come there to sit and listen to
a
lot of talk.
Yeah, right.
And so I wrote this unusual form that I really don't know what to call. It's not a musical a comedy. It's not. I don't know what it is. It's not a review, but it's a new form. And we recorded it as a concept album. Mm-hmm. With the most extraordinary cast. I just went to everybody that I thought would be right for each song, and they all said yes. And we recorded it with Steve Lawrence and Christine Baranski and Michael Feinstein and Karen Morrow, and I mean it's Faith Prince. It's just, you know, a field day of wonderful talents. And I had it exquisitely orchestrated by Larry Blank, and it hit the stores without a show behind it, and the stores could not keep it on the shelves. It actually became one of those phenomenons.
Well, you know, Jerry, people have been waiting for another Jerry Herman show for about, what,
I know.
20 years, 20 years.
15, 20 years now.
I did wait a long time. But I had a good reason. And now it's in its third pressing. And one of my Lacage producers, Ken Greenblatt, and his partner, Ben Sprecher, came to me and said, we want to do this in Vegas. We want to do it exactly as you envisioned it. Right. And who would you like to direct it? And I said,
Tommy Tune.
Tommy Tune.
And you met with Tommy. You're talking to him about the show.
We've met several times, and it's so right.
And you guys, two of the giants of the American musical theater, have never worked together.
We've always wanted to, and we've been friends forever. And
your styles would just seem naturally to match.
It's the most natural thing in the world, and I'm crazy about this man. This man has an imagination and a unique talent that has not even been tapped yet. I think he's going to do his most exciting work.
Well, it's interesting because, you know, as you say, you were out of it for a while. Tommy has also been out of the Broadway, creating a new musical circuit for a while. He was in Vegas doing a show and various other things. And, you know, one hopes that you, in some ways, and the score will sort of revitalize him. Does he seem excited about?
He's like a kid. We're like two kids running around my hotel room. I really think that we are both revitalizing each other. Not that he needs any revitalizing, but it's just one of those perfect collaborations.
But there's no plans to bring it to Broadway,
no,
right?
No,
you don't.
It wasn't written for Broadway, and I don't ever see it in a Broadway house.
You don't.
No, it's only an hour and a half. It's really a show that was created for Las Vegas and about Las Vegas.
Do you have another Broadway show in you? Another few Broadway shows? Do you want a show on Broadway again?
I never thought I would say this, but the answer is yes.
Really?
I didn't think I would say this because I thought my health was deteriorating.
Right. Well, we should say you've been open about this.
Oh, I'm very open about it.
But you were diagnosed HIV
I was diagnosed
positive.
with HIV, and I thought, you know.
When was the diagnosis?
1984.
After the
After
success.
La Cage.
Yeah.
La Cage was running, and I got this terrible news, and I went into a depression, and I started not feeling, as energetic as I had been. And that's why I moved to California, very honestly.
You thought you were going to die?
Yeah. And because of a brilliant doctor and because of the brilliant scientists who created a protease inhibitor that just happened to work on my system, I'm in better health right now than I was when I was diagnosed. And so it's like having a second birth, and here I am doing all these new projects.
You're even apartment shopping in New York.
And I'm looking for an apartment.
So what is that musical inside you, Jerry? Do you have any idea?
Oh, I don't know, but if anybody has an idea.
Now, you always say this to me, but I can't imagine that people don't come to you all the time to get you to do a show.
My desk is covered, littered with ideas for musicals, but something has to hit me in the heart. I can't just sit down and write a musical because somebody has written a book for one. I have to just fall in love.
As you did with La Cage aux Folles back in 1982.
Which has been talk about a revival of that, by the way.
Yes. We're going to do a revival of La Cage.
In London.
In London, and then back here. And Harvey Firestein, I want to talk about my pal, who is the toast of Broadway in Hairspray, is going to probably end up being the only person who ever was starring in a musical as a performer and having the book of a musical that he's written appear again, at the same time. I mean, that's a feat.
Do you have any worries that La Cage might be a little dated now?
None at all.
No. Because it's a more innocent time. It's a pre-AIDS musical.
Well, but
it's really not a story about a time. It's a story about a dysfunctional family. And that's why it was so successful.
And you write about how you were worried that people in 1983 were going to have a problem because it was about two gay men.
Yes.
And then you suddenly were sitting in the audience and realized.
That night in Boston, when we had our first audience, a couple came in front of Arthur Lawrence Harvey and myself, and they were so typical. They were like a Back Bay, elegant, middle-aged couple, and I poked both of them and I pointed, and they knew what I was saying. That was our audience, and I think they were a little taken aback by the opening number when the wigs came off and they realized what they were
All the chorus
seeing.
girls were boys. Yeah.
I think they were just a little, they straightened up in their seat. But a few minutes later, Song on the Sand,
Beautiful song.
ballad, sung by a man to a man at a little cafe table, began. And about 2 minutes into the song, they held hands. And they started to smile. And I knew at that moment, it was such a revealing moment that I get teary-eyed just thinking about it. I knew that we had done the right thing, and that we had written a show that would affect people across the board.
Right.
And of course, the show has played every conceivable country in the world, and people fall in love with these two men, and they see their own lives in these two men. It doesn't matter if they're a man and a woman or two women. It doesn't matter who they are. They see themselves because it's a basic love story.
Who's going to direct this?
We don't have a director or a cast yet, but...
Are you going to do any rewriting of it at all, tweaking, or do you think it...
No, instead of rewriting, we're going to make the new version grittier and more like what they did with Cabaret. They really didn't rewrite Cabaret, but they changed the tone of it.
Right.
And that's Harvey's idea, and I think it's a brilliant one.
Right. Just to give us some insights on how you actually write a song, do you remember how you wrote the famous song from La Cage aux Folles, I Am What I Am, which became an anthem? I mean, can you take us back to the time where you were and how that song came together?
I was very happily working with Arthur and Harvey daily. And we'd meet and we'd talk and we'd throw ideas around. And one day, Harvey came in and said, I have the end of Act One. And he read this speech, beautifully written, absolutely beautifully written. And it was when Alban learns that he's not invited to his own son's wedding because they're ashamed of him. And in the middle of this speech, he said, I am what I am, and there's nothing I can do. And it went on. And I said, hold everything, hold everything. I said, I want to take those 5 words, if you will give them to me. They were Harvey's words. But I had done that with Thornton Wilder, and I had done that with...
That's what book writers do. They got to lose it.
And I said, I can write you a first act closer that will absolutely just be a killer because I feel that emotion in me. And Harvey was such a great collaborator. He said, of course. He said, don't be silly. You don't have to ask, you know. And I went...
Well, didn't he also doubt you? That, can you write? You said, I'll write it overnight or something. And he said, oh, can you
I don't know
that?
if he doubted me, but I mean, he might have looked at me a little askance because I said, I'll have something for you tomorrow, because I was that excited.
Right.
When I'm really sure about a song, I can write very quickly. And I wrote the song that night, and I called them the next morning. I said, you've got to come to my house. We always worked at my house. I had a studio on top of 61st Street. And they came, and I sat them down, and I took a deep breath, and I sang I Am What I Am, exactly the arrangement that's in the show, and that, you know, the 3 choruses, they keep on building.
Yep.
And the reaction was cataclysmic. They didn't know what to say to me. But it was a very exciting moment. The 3 of us knew that we had something special. And Harvey's beautiful speech was used without those words that led up to the song. So that's really the essence of collaboration.
Right. Well, Frank Lesser, your mentor in some way, said, I remember once Peter Stone told me this, Frank Lesser said, you know it's working when everybody's on the same level of a show, when they understand what the show is about. Book writer, director, composer, lyricist.
It's happened to me just a few times. It happened to me with Milk and Honey. It happened to me with Maine. Everybody was on the same page with Maine. It was a delight from beginning to end. And it happened to me with La Cage. Everybody saw the same show, and everybody had the same vision, and it was a picnic. I mean, it was not what you expect.
When does the writing come hard for you? And are there any particular songs that you have struggled with that you're, perhaps proud of with the struggle?
Yes, I have struggled over songs. I've made it sound...
Yeah, it does sound like, you sit at the piano.
Like I just sit at the piano when they pour out. I didn't know how to finish Open a New Window from Maine. I would get to a certain point in the song, and I didn't know how to end it musically, and it was just a struggle. And I know it doesn't sound like a song that was struggled over, but it actually took me months to complete that song. And I don't know why, but there are certain songs that I Won't Send Roses was a very difficult song to come up with the idea for in Mac and Mabel. I knew I had to write a love song for a man who didn't know how to say
I love you.
Those words.
Yeah.
And I pushed it aside and said, well, I'll do this next. I was very Scarlett O'Hara about that. So I'll do that tomorrow. And when I got the idea, the song just poured out.
Right.
But I have to say that that song really took months to write, not the short time that.
Right, because you were thinking about it.
Because I was thinking
about
it and planning it.
Yeah. What do you think is your most complex musically song that you've written?
The Tea Party from Dear World.
Yes, I thought
it's a triple counterpoint. I'm very proud of the fact that Walter Kerr, who was a critic that I respected completely. If he didn't like something of mine, I knew that I had made a mistake. That's how much I believed in him. He said, the Tea Party from Dear World is close to light opera and close to perfection. And I walked around puffed up for a day because that man understood what I was doing there.
Yeah.
That was very complicated. A lot of Dear World is
very interesting score, very much a European flavored score, I think.
That's what I tried for.
Yeah.
But ultimately, that was a frustrating experience for you.
It was a terrible experience.
It got out of hand in a way.
Because the show really got out of hand. We had 3 different directors.
Right, right. It wasn't milk and honey anymore.
No. I've had very difficult times,
Sure.
and that was a tough one. Yeah.
What do you like in the heat of battle, let us say, on a show that is in trouble? When the problems you had with Mac and Mabel, Dear Old, because you come from the world of going out of town with a show, fixing a show out of town, sort of things that are now lost in this day and age.
All right, here I am right now working on Show Tune, a review in
Up in Nyack, yeah.
And it's a very intricate show because it takes 40 of my songs and uses them in different ways than they were used in the original shows, and the color of the psych is very important to give the emotion, because there's nothing else on the stage but color and these great artists, these 6 wonderful talents, and the staging of Joey McNeely. That's all we have.
Right.
And so every detail becomes much more important, because you hear my lyrics without choreography getting in the way, without, there is choreography in the show, but without the distraction of all the different elements that the original show, might have had. And so I'm in the middle of all this, and I'm working as calmly and as coolly as you would ever imagine I could be, even though we're right there. We're at tonight is a dress rehearsal, and I'm good in panic situations.
You're always calm. When you had David Merrick out of town with Hello Dolly, or Mac and Mabel, when he's yelling for this.
Forced myself to be calm. That was the toughest experience I ever had, because he was really very hard on me. But I took a deep breath and I rose to the occasion. Where I got that, I don't know, because that kind of spine is not an easy thing to.
I mean, you could have it now because you're Jerry Herman. I mean, you're powerful in the theater and everyone respects you. But when you were a kid, to stand
when
up,
David Merrick was coming down,
you don't use that element. I never use that. I always try and reason. If I feel that there's a certain color that would be better,
right?
I go to the people involved and I say, I feel that the sky should be a bright yellow because it's that kind of a song. It's a summer day. I was talking about ribbons down my back. And I think there should be a clarity, behind it, and not the color that's there right now. And I give them a reason rather than just say, I want.
Right. Just want to ask you about musical comedy itself, which seems to be making a comeback with Hairspray and the producers. Did you ever feel there was a certain point where the kind of shows that you love and you were writing had sort of fallen out of favor, that the kind of the rise of the darker Hal Prince, Steve Sondheim concept musicals were taking over, and there was no room for a Jerry Herman style musical?
Very definitely. I thought this is a very good time to retire. After La Cage, because I said I don't think that there's room for this kind of show anymore. And then I started to see all the revivals, very successfully done, of Kiss Me Kate and Music Man, and then the producers came out, and I thought, well, I'm wrong. They want musical comedy. They want songs that they can hum. They want, the old-fashioned musical style. I love the words old-fashioned, by the way. I think they're great words because they mean Irving Berlin and Gershwin, and I think they're beautiful words. And I know now that there is a huge audience out there waiting for.
Because back when La Cage was running, the same season
was Sunday in the Park with George.
George.
That seemed the split. It almost was like that season was the split of the musical.
But you see, what I love is that two shows like that can play at the same time and both find an audience.
Right.
An eclectic musical theater is really the healthiest musical theater.
Did you like Sunday in the Park with George?
Very, very much.
And are you friendly with Steve Sondheim?
We just know each other, and we're very respectful of each other. We know that we come from totally different places, so we're really, unlike what people think, we're really not in competition with each other.
Yeah, well, there was always the rivalry, Sunday in the Park and into the
but that's
Cage-aux-Folles.
It's not real, because he's a genius and I'm a songwriter. There's a big difference.
Well, how decorous you are.
No, there's a difference. I mean, he is in a class by himself.
I mean, there are things he does and you think, this is breathtakingly brilliant, and
just brilliant, and it's not how I can't do it, and also I don't want to go there. I want to write a song that people will hum on the way out of the theater, and we come from totally different places, and I think that that's very healthy.
Right. But I would say, though, in your defense, Jerry, I must say, yes, your songs are wonderfully hummable, of course, but I always feel that they're more complicated than people give them credit for. I do think harmonically and melodically there are interesting things going on in your songs.
I thank you for understanding that, because sometimes people think, oh, he writes those simple ditties and it's easy. It's not easy.
I'll Be Wearing Ribbons Down My Back is not a simple ditty.
Not at all. Yeah. Not at all. And even the obvious simple songs are not that easy to write, or everybody would write a song like Maine.
Yes.
That's a complicated song. It doesn't sound it, but just to be able to do that is a feat.
And also, as far as lyric writing goes, I mean, yes, Sondheim is famous for his very intricate and clever rhymes and all that sort of thing, but there are no false rhymes in Jerry Herman lyrics, and you have a wonderful feeling for really setting the scene of a place, like, the bougainvilleas in Maine. You really have a sense of creating this southern life here. That's what I find interesting about you.
I have to say that Show Tune shows that off better than anything that I've ever done, because those lyrics are up there beautifully naked. And you'll see what I mean when you see it.
Right. Show Tune's up at Nyack?
It's up at the Helen Hayes Theater in Nyack.
In Nyack. Miss Spectacular is going to be in Vegas.
In Vegas.
And there is a Broadway musical still
and
there.
There's a new Broadway musical right here.
Jerry, would you mind playing us out on the piano?
I'd love to. I'd love to.
Terrific.
The title song from Miss Spectacular. short version of it.
It's
Another winner.
it is the distinctive Jerry Herman sound. Jerry, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being our guest tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Theater Talk is made possible in part by the Friedrich Loewe Foundation, the Corey and Bob Dinelli Charitable Fund, the Eleanor Naylor Dana Charitable Trust, the Alan S. Gordon Foundation, and public funds from the New York State Council on the Arts, a state agency.
Playbill Online is the official website of Theater Talk and the home of the Playbill Club, providing information and opportunities for theater lovers. We welcome your questions or comments for Theater Talk. Thank you and good night.